Welcome back to the Go Homemade channel. Today, we follow a determined man as he takes on the incredible challenge of building a home in the middle of a towering, vertical cliff. How does he accomplish such an ambitious and daring project? Follow along as we dive into every step of this inspiring adventure. You won't want to miss a moment of this story. As he made his way through the dense forest, he found himself standing before a towering cliff that loomed high into the sky. In that moment, an idea sparked in his mind. He decided to carve out a house deep within the heart of the cliff ahead. Without hesitation, he set to work, clearing away the trees and vegetation that stood in front of the massive rock face, preparing the site for his ambitious and unique project. Determined to gather the resources he needed, he ventured deep into the forest, where the air was thick with the scent of earth and greenery. He carefully examined the vines growing wildly around the trees, choosing only the strongest and most flexible ones. With patience and skill, he began weaving the vines together, his hands moving precisely and purposefully. He crafted a basket, ensuring it was both durable and practical, with a sturdy, comfortable handle for easy carrying. When finished, the basket was not just a simple tool, but a testament to his ingenuity and resourcefulness. With his tools in hand and a clear vision in mind, he began the challenging task of digging into the solid cliff to create a living space within its heart. Each stroke of his pickaxe chipped away at the rock, and as the debris accumulated, he used a handmade basket to collect the loose soil and stones. He carefully filled the basket, pouring it aside. The process was slow and laborious, but he worked tirelessly, driven by his dream of turning the rugged cliff into a unique and functional home. This process was slow and labor-intensive, but he worked tirelessly, driven by the dream of transforming the rugged cliffside into a unique and functional home. After carving out the initial space within the cliff, he turned his attention to refining the walls. With determination and precision, he worked to smooth and even out the surfaces, chipping away at rough edges and shaping the rock into clean, defined lines. Each stroke of his tools brought the walls closer to perfection, transforming the raw, rugged interior into a more polished and habitable space. The work demanded both strength and focus as he carefully balanced function with aesthetics, ensuring the walls were not only visually appealing, but also structurally sound. Realizing the need for more efficient transportation, he decided to improve his handmade basket. He cleverly attached two sturdy straps to the basket, transforming it into a convenient backpack. With the newly improved basket secured to his back, he set out to collect rocks from the surrounding area. He carefully selected rocks of various sizes and shapes, focusing on finding rocks that would fit together to build the walls of his house. Once the stones were gathered and transported back to the construction site, he turned his attention to creating a natural binding material. He began by mixing soil with water, carefully kneading the mixture until it reached the perfect consistency. A thick, sticky paste that would serve as an effective adhesive. Satisfied with the blend, he prepared to build the walls of his home. Starting at the base, he meticulously placed each stone, selecting pieces that fit snugly together like pieces of a puzzle. After positioning a stone, he applied a generous layer of the soil mixture, ensuring a strong bond before adding the next one. With each layer, the wall grew taller and more defined. He worked methodically, stacking the stones with precision to maximize both stability and durability. As the walls grew taller, they began to take on an imposing presence, their solid form a testament to his hard work and craftsmanship. The natural materials blended seamlessly with the surrounding cliffs, making the emerging house look as if it had always belonged there. Despite the arduous process, he remained focused, knowing that these strong, carefully crafted walls would provide the foundation for his dream home. To gather enough stones for both walls, he had to make several trips back and forth, each time carefully selecting the right rocks to match the size and shape he needed. After completing the first wall, he turned his attention to the second wall. The process was much the same, but now he had the experience and rhythm of the first wall to guide him. He worked steadily, repeating the steps carefully until the second wall was as strong and reliable as the first. With both walls complete, the structure began to take shape, and he could feel the sense of accomplishment growing with each layer. The two walls, side by side, were not just functional, but also a reflection of his perseverance and vision. With both walls complete and standing, he turned his attention to the next phase of construction. He went into the woods again, this time to find large, sturdy tree trunks. After carefully selecting the best logs, he used a saw to cut the trunks into shorter sections that could be easily transported to the construction site. The rhythmic sound of the saw slicing through the wood echoed through the trees as he worked, each cut precise and intentional. Once he had gathered enough wood, he loaded it onto his back and carried it back to the construction site, each log heavy with the promise of becoming an important part of the project. The wood was essential to completing the house he was slowly building inside the cliff. Upon returning to the construction site with the wood, he knew he needed a better way to handle the logs for further processing. He decided to craft 2 sturdy sawhorses, which would provide a stable base for the logs, making the work more efficient. Using some of the logs he had collected, he cut them into shorter sections to form the legs and supports of the sawhorses. He carefully selected his tools, each one chosen for its specific purpose in the intricate task ahead. With a clear focus, he began the slow and meticulous process of shaping the ends of the logs. Using his chisel and mallet, he worked with precision, carving out the necessary notches to create perfect joints. The task required not just skill but patience, as each cut had to be exact, ensuring that the pieces would fit together seamlessly. As he worked, he took great care to measure each piece, making sure the notches were deep and precise. The joints had to be perfectly aligned, as the stability of the sawhorse critical for supporting the heavy logs depended on these connections being flawless. The process was slow and demanding, requiring steady hands and an unwavering focus. Once the saw stand frame was ready, he moved on to the next step. With measured precision, he hammered the posts firmly into the ground, ensuring they were vertical and aligned. Once the vertical supports were securely in place, he began attaching the cross beams. These cross beams were carefully positioned on the vertical posts, providing the necessary support and structure for the logs. He carefully places the logs on the frame, positioning them securely so they don't move as he works. Starting with the outer layers, he uses a knife to peel the rough bark off each log. After peeling away the bark, he cuts the edges of each log to create square, even sections. After cutting the logs into squares, he takes a planer and begins smoothing the newly exposed sides. He works the wood with careful cuts, shaving off any imperfections and rough spots. The once rough logs now had a clean, polished look, with perfectly flat surfaces on every side. The process was slow, but each log that came off the sawmill was a testament to his meticulous craftsmanship. He worked one log at a time, each one becoming a smooth square of wood. The work was painstaking, but with each completed log, he could see the structure of his future home begin to take shape. Once the logs were fully prepared, their surfaces smooth and square, he turned his attention to the next step, cutting the wood into thin planks. Carefully selecting a few of the logs, he measured and marked where he wanted to make the cuts. Each mark was deliberate, ensuring that the planks would be uniform in thickness. With his markings in place, he picked up his saw and began the precise work of cutting along the lines. The rhythmic sound of the saw echoed as he carefully worked through the wood, making each cut slowly and steadily to avoid splintering the edges. As the planks began to emerge from the logs, he inspected each one, making sure the cuts were straight and even. With the remaining logs, he began preparing for the next crucial stage of his project, the construction of the wall frame. Using his tools, he carefully measured and marked the points where he needed to create joints. His focus was sharp as he set to work carving out the necessary notches and grooves along the edges of the logs. These intricate cuts would allow the pieces to fit together securely, forming a strong and stable framework for the walls. Once all the joints and holes were made, he was ready to begin assembling the frame, each piece prepared to lock into place and contribute to the solid structure that would support the walls of his home. Once all the timbers and joints were prepared, he carefully carried the pieces of timber to the construction site. He laid them down, positioning them precisely along both sides of the wall frame, making sure they were aligned and firmly anchored to the ground. To secure them in place, he took sturdy wooden stakes and drove them into the pre-drilled holes in each log. He drove the stakes deep into the ground, making sure the logs were firmly anchored. Next, he turned his attention to a new challenge, building a bed that could fold up against the wall. He had a clear vision in mind, a practical, space-saving solution that would require precise craftsmanship. Every frame, joint, and connection needed to be perfect to ensure that the bed would not only fold seamlessly, but also be sturdy enough for everyday use. He began by crafting the main frame of the bed, taking great care with each piece of wood. Using his tools, he carefully shaped the joints, cutting the notches and grooves to fit together perfectly. These connections had to be exact, as the bed needed to be both stable when in use and easy to fold up when not needed. He used a mix of wooden pegs and nails to secure the pieces, ensuring each joint was tight and strong. He moved on to attaching the wooden slats that would form the mattress support. Each slat was carefully arranged and secured, ensuring comfort and stability. He built the legs of the bed, ensuring they were sturdy and able to support the weight of the mattress and whoever slept on it. He assembled the parts, focusing on the mechanism that allowed the bed to fold up. This required extra attention to detail, as the hinges and locking system had to be reliable and easy to operate. He meticulously installed the hinges, ensuring that they allowed the bed to lift smoothly and stay securely in place when folded against the wall. Once the bed was fully assembled and ready, he began integrating it into the frame of the house. He began by securing the base of the bed frame to the wall, using sturdy, reliable bolts to ensure it would stay securely in place when folded or in use. Hinges, carefully selected for their durability, were attached to both the bed frame and the wall. As he tested the folding mechanism, he made slight adjustments to ensure everything aligned perfectly. Once the bed was securely in place, he focused on the next task, installing the flooring. He measured and carefully cut additional wooden planks, each the exact size of the room. He began by placing each plank one by one, checking to see if they fit together. Next, he turned his attention to creating a unique living space feature, a pull-out, push-in drawer system that would provide additional functionality and flexibility to the room. He envisioned a design where large drawers could be used for storage or even as movable partitions, allowing the space to transform depending on the needs of the moment. He began by carefully selecting the wood for the frame, measuring each piece to ensure they would fit together perfectly. Using his tools, he constructed a sturdy framework for the drawers, making sure each joint was reinforced for durability. The system had to be strong enough to withstand the repeated pulling and pushing, so he focused on making sure the wood was well treated and the joints were tight. He focused intently on perfecting the sliding mechanism, determined that the drawers would move smoothly and effortlessly. Rather than using metal wheels, he decided to craft wooden wheels, believing they would blend better with the natural materials of the room and provide a more authentic, handmade touch. He carefully shapes each wooden wheel, making sure they are perfectly round and smooth. The wheels need to be just the right size to support the weight of the drawer while still allowing them to glide easily. Once the wheels are shaped, he carefully drills small holes into the base of each drawer and attaches the wheels with wooden dowels, making sure they are securely fastened. With everything in place, he tested the system. Each drawer slid in and out with ease, the wooden wheels turning smoothly along the tracks. The mechanism worked just as he had hoped, allowing the drawers to move effortlessly, providing both function and style to his unique living space. Once the sliding system was functioning perfectly, he moved on to the next step, building the frame for the entire cabinet system above. This frame would house the pull-out drawers and ensure the entire structure was stable and aligned. He carefully measured the dimensions, ensuring that the frame would fit snugly into the space and provide enough room for each drawer to move freely. Using precise cuts and secure joints, he assembled the frame, checking each connection to ensure it was tight and strong. The wood was treated to prevent warping over time, ensuring the frame would last. As the frame for the entire cabinet system took shape, he knew that this carefully constructed foundation would be the backbone of the flexible, dynamic space he had envisioned. Each step, from the sliding mechanisms to the wooden frame, was designed to create a functional and beautiful system that would serve both practical and aesthetic purposes in the room. He moved on to the next crucial step, installing the top and bottom surfaces. First, he focused on the bottom, carefully cutting the wooden planks to fit snugly within the frame. Each piece was measured and trimmed to ensure a perfect fit, leaving no gaps. As he laid the planks down, he secured them tightly with nails, making sure they were fastened evenly across the entire bottom, creating a solid, stable surface. After finishing the bottom, he turned his attention to the top, the ceiling of the cabinet system. This part required the same level of precision, as he wanted the top surface to be smooth and secure, providing a clean finish for the entire system. He laid the planks for the top surface in the same manner, aligning each piece carefully and securing them with nails. The entire cabinet structure now had a finished look, with both the top and bottom surfaces tightly connected to the frame. With this step complete, the framework was ready for the next phase of construction, and the entire system began to take shape as a functional and aesthetically pleasing piece of the living space. With the box frame and top and bottom surfaces securely in place, he moved on to adding a door for the main entrance to the system. He began by constructing the door frame, carefully measuring and cutting the wooden beams to create a sturdy and well-fitted structure. He focused on securing the edges of the frame, ensuring the entire structure would be stable and durable. Carefully, he placed wooden nails or dowels into the pre-drilled holes along the corners and edges of the frame. These dowels would provide extra strength and stability, making sure that all the joints held firmly in place. Once the frame was assembled, he attached wooden planks to form the door's surface, ensuring each piece was aligned properly and securely fastened with nails. The door was designed to fit perfectly within the opening, allowing for smooth operation when opening and closing. He worked on creating circular wooden discs that would be used to connect the cabinet structure to the main frame of the house. He carefully shaped each disc, making sure they were perfectly round and smooth. These discs would act as connectors, securing the entire system in place while adding a decorative element to the structure. He drilled holes in the discs and the frame, then attached them using wooden pegs, ensuring that each disc was securely fastened and the system was well integrated with the rest of the house's framework. He turned his attention to the door, ensuring it was securely fixed into the frame. He carefully positioned the door within the opening, aligning it perfectly with the frame to ensure smooth operation when opened and closed. With the door in place, he used wooden nails to attach it firmly to the frame. Once the door was nailed in place, he tested it by opening and closing it several times to check that it swung smoothly without sticking or dragging. Satisfied with the result, he knew the door was now securely fixed and would function properly as part of the overall system. With the cabinet system completed, he moved on to his next project, creating a cooking area. He took a square frame, pressed the clay into the frame, and sealed it tightly to ensure effective insulation and heat retention. Using a small twig, he poked holes in the clay to create space for the grill rack later, ensuring a solid foundation for cooking. He started by building a wooden frame, carefully cutting and fitting the pieces together to form square structures. These frames would serve as the foundation for the cooking area. He began assembling the remaining frames to build the structure. He sealed the edges of the frame to create a closed unit, leaving an open section in the middle for cooking. The top was left open to create space for the grill rack, which would be used for direct heat cooking. Once the frame and structure were complete, he carefully applied a layer of clay on the inside surfaces. This layer would help insulate the cooking area, improving heat retention and making the unit more efficient for cooking. He spread the clay evenly across the interior walls, ensuring every gap was filled and the surface was smooth. With the base, structure, and interior lining finished, the cooking unit was well on its way to becoming a functional part of the living space. The combination of wood and clay would allow for effective cooking while maintaining the natural, rustic aesthetic of the house. Once the clay had dried and hardened, he carefully placed the grill on top of the cooking element, making sure it sat securely in the holes he had made earlier. Satisfied with the arrangement, he gathered some dry wood and started a fire. After setting up the stove, he arranged the stones for the front yard of the house. He carefully selected each stone, placing them one by one to create a solid and flat surface for the outdoor space. The stones were carefully aligned, filling the area with a natural, rustic look that complemented the wooden texture of the house. After finishing the front yard, he went back inside to focus on the bed. He added a layer of sawdust to the bed frame to create a comfortable sleeping surface, then placed a tarp liner on top. With both the front yard and bed complete, the house was taking shape, each element carefully crafted to create a functional and welcoming living space. After a long day of hard work, he decided it was time for a well-deserved rest. The warmth of the fire still lingered in the air, and he took a moment to relax. A pot of water, which had been steaming over the fire, was quickly poured into a small teapot. At the same time, he cooked and enjoyed his dinner. And so his house was finally completed. After a long and tiring journey of hard work and dedication, the house, a perfect combination of craftsmanship and nature, is a testament to his efforts, creativity, and perseverance. Thank you all for joining him on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed the process, Don't forget to leave a like and a comment to let us know your thoughts. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the upcoming videos. Goodbye for now, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.